It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide, and I'm Brad Miller, and we're happy to welcome into the studio a guest that we've chatted with any number of times, but wearing a little different hat here as we move into our holiday season. Brian Bergner now is with the Verde Valley Sanctuary, and we have chatted with Brian most recently, representing Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Bigs. You say it for me. I'm lost already.
Yes, Yavapai, Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Bigs and littles and all of that kind of stuff. And did I get that right? Congratulations. I guess I would say a new role with yet another tremendous outreach program here in our area.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters was kind of my first turn in nonprofit world, and it was a great experience. And I got a great opportunity with Verde Valley Sanctuary to be their development and communications director, kind of a dual role. And as you know, I spent about 2 decades in journalism and in the news business, and so the communications part was a cool role for me that I was looking for. And then to be able to also be a development director, which was kind of the next step for me in the nonprofit world. And so I'm pretty excited to kind of get things rolling with Verde Valley Sanctuary.
Communications is your game, and two very, very worthwhile programs that we've talked with in a number of time, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and the Verde Valley Sanctuary. But it has been a while since we've talked about the Sanctuary, over a year. So I want to get first. There's some big things kind of coming up as we work our way through the holiday season with charitable gifting. And certainly the Verde Valley Sanctuary is one among those that would be very appreciative of folks and their resources and their help. And we'll get into that in our second piece of the program. But first, just for those who are uninitiated about the great work the Verde Valley Sanctuary does and has done for a long time, give me a snapshot, an overview of what it is that you do.
So the Verde Valley Sanctuary is the Verde Valley's only domestic violence shelter. It's a 32-bed shelter here. It is stationed in Cottonwood, but we serve all the Verde Valley. And typically we have anywhere from between 20 and 25 clients in shelter at one time. Usually serve about 160 to 180 clients a year in shelter on average during our fiscal year, according to our annual reports for the last 4 years. We also have transitional housing. So people in shelter have about 120 days. And during that 120 days, they work with caseworkers and gives them an opportunity to, they're really, in effect, starting their lives over. And so they need to find work. They need to find a place to live. And so they are allowed the time to kind of reset their minds. Everything that we do is free. We do refer them to counselors if they need to. And so there's different aspects of our program that are great. And so once the 120 days is out, they can apply for transitional housing. And so we own an apartment complex in town that our clients can transition into, and that's actually a 2-year bid. And it's a low-income part, so just 30% of their income, they pay rent. And it's a great way to just get them set up over a long period of time. And so that way they can move on from there. Our program has an outreach program, and so those people are, we call them survivors, not victims. So those are the survivors that are lucky enough to not be in shelter. So they might have someone local, but they still are going through it. And our lay legal advocacy group, those are the people that are working with the legal side of things. And so if they need an order of protection, or if they need a separation agreement or a divorce, or a client needs to face her abuser in court. Right. And so
and all of these things are likely to happen to most, if not
all of our clients. And so they are, the Supreme Court actually trains our people about 20 to 30 hours a year and kind of shows them the ropes. Like, here's the paperwork that's needed. Here's the questions that the judge is going to ask. Here are things that our survivor needs to think about transitioning into this next phase of their life, and the things that need to be done to make sure that they are protected. And so a lot of our clients, like many of them are from the Verde Valley area, but we have many clients that are from different parts of Arizona. We don't have just people in shelters. So depending on their situation, they might come to us from the Valley or Prescott or Flagstaff.
Now, is that simply is part of that perhaps because it is less safe for them?
Correct. So typically,
that's just
if they're being abused, obviously domestically and sexually, they are, and they need to get out of the situation. Sometimes just removing them from the area and putting them into the next town helps. My first week on the job, I started in the beginning of September. We actually transported someone to Durango, Colorado, to get her completely out of the state. And we just put someone on a bus this weekend to Wisconsin. And so so we have relationships with other shelters, and sometimes they send us people, we send them people, depending on the need. And a lot of times the judges, the law enforcement community can help us with that in terms of, yes, this needs to happen. If the client obviously fears for her life, we definitely step in and help them transition out of here. Right. And so and it's of all ages. Like, we have retired women in shelter, and we have 20-somethings that I think there's 2 toddlers in shelter right now.
Yeah. Have come with mom.
That's come with mom. And then so we have families in shelter. So
I want to slow you down for a second, just for this point. I want to underscore what an extraordinarily valuable resource this is in our community. Just from what you've said, we've gone through in about 6 minutes things that impacts lives in an enormous way. You mentioned a key point of this is that the Verde Valley Sanctuary is where many of these, not exclusively women, but largely women. We talked about that on a previous show, and that surprised me, how many abused men there are.
Correct.
In our community, let alone in the world.
Correct.
But largely women, many times with kids, sometimes very, very young children, other times school-age kids, and that becomes a whole other issue. Verde Valley Sanctuary is there for them. If they don't have someone else, there are some women who might be battered who live in Cottonwood, can't go to their own mother because the abuser knows where the mom lives or will continue the harassment upon them.
Correct.
The Verde Valley Sanctuary is there.
That's correct.
It's just extraordinary, and that's only the shelter piece. That's only to get them out of that situation.
Right. It's an emergency shelter. So
then you begin the legalese, and then you begin all the other things that you talked about very quickly.
Right.
I just don't want anybody to miss what we went through kind of fast, how incredibly valuable.
And we're not, it's not just, we're a 24/7 operation.
You work with law enforcement pretty close.
We do. So we had the commander for YCSO in-house a couple weeks ago. And so we do a lot of outreach that way with local PD. I just had lunch with one of the lieutenants in Conwood PD that I know as a friend, and so they work with us, we work with them so that they know who we are, they know what they can do, especially with like Yavapai County Sheriff's Office, where like they might have a situation in Rimrock and they need to take this person out of that situation right now. And so that's where we step in, and we have a 24/7 crisis hotline. That's how many of our clients come to us. Again, our shelter is an undisclosed location, so it's not out there in the world. People don't know where it is, but the police do. And so local law enforcement knows where we're at and where to bring people, and they can call us and advocate for them to be in shelter. And so it's a whole intake process, but it's not just, like you said, it's not just shelter. Between the transitional housing, we have a safer fund that helps these clients restart their lives financially. So we all know how expensive rent is. So first and last month's rent, utilities like power and, water, sewer, and trash and things like that. So we actually have grant money and things like that to help them pay for them to help get them started. And that's such a huge thing too, and so there's so many different aspects, and we haven't even touched on, our couple of thrift stores that we have locally, in Sedona and in Camp Verde, and those places help provide not only financial support for the agency, but clothes, shoes, furniture, things that they need, because many times our clients, they show up with the clothes on their back.
And that's it.
Right. And so they need items to, like, just a few items, or like if they have a job interview and they're 20 days in, and so they need, a nice blouse or a nice pair of pants or shoes, that they can go and get those for free, completely free. And we have shelter staff that takes them to those things. So like just a couple of weeks ago, I was at the Sedona thrift store, the Twice Nice thrift store, and there was 5 or 6 of our clients that were there with a couple of our staff members because they were doing some shopping.
I think one of the things that doesn't get underlined enough, and I've learned it from talking with people like yourself and agencies and folks like those good people at the Verde Valley Sanctuary, is that many times an abuse victim, a survivor, has a financial dependency on their attacker, the harasser. And it's almost impossible. They don't have a credit card. They don't own one. They don't have a bank account. They have no resources financially to escape a situation.
That's correct.
And so what you're talking about with the thrift store, and I want to talk about all those in our second segment, why that kind of those financial cogs in the wheel are so critically important. Our guest is Brian Bergner. He is with the Verde Valley Sanctuary, one of the most important among many in our community that we are blessed to have, an important resource. We'll take a short break. It's Countywide. We're back right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide. Our guest today, Brian Bergner, with the Verde Valley Sanctuary. We heard in our first segment how important that is. And it takes money to make all of these good organizations, these nonprofits run, Brian. So it is the season of giving. What is it called? Giving Tuesday?
Yes, Giving Tuesday
is today.
Is today.
As we record our show on December 3rd. So perfect if folks are listening and compelled after our first segment to be a part of your effort. How do we do it? What's the best way? What are some of the opportunities for them?
So there's a lot of ways you can do it. If you decide to give donations to to our thrift stores, you can bring in clothes, you can bring in shoes, things like that. If you want to do it financially, you can go to verdevalleysanctuary.org and click the donate button. And there's different ways you can do it. So like $75 would support a survivor for one day for our food program. So like our food budget every month is around $2,200 to feed the shelter every month.
Okay.
And so there's different ways to do that. You can support one survivor receiving services for 1 month for just $250. There's tax credit, of course, which is coming up. We all talk about tax credit and how important it is in Arizona's community, especially in the nonprofit community. But if you're interested in doing a little bit more than that $470 or $968, there's things like you can support the emergency shelter operations for 1 day. So for 1 day, Brad, it's $1,500 to run the shelter. And that's everything from all the clients, all the hotline stuff we need to do, staff, the food, everything together. It's $1,500 a day to run that place. If you're interested in doing a little more, you can support a survivor receiving services for 1 full year at $3,500. And so just depending on where you're at and what you'd like to give, honestly, anything. If you'd want to give $20, that's totally great. Right. And so Giving Tuesday today is a way to do that. And so leading up to that, and being able to provide and getting online and doing that donation. And it can be $5, whatever you can do, because every little bit helps.
Is there grant funding available through state, federal, or other?
Yes, that's correct. So we have VOCA funding, which is our federal funding. So that's the Victims Against Crime Act. Okay. And that changes every year. It just depends on what it
unknown.
Is. But that provides quite a bit of funding on a monthly basis. We have funding from the state. So DES gives us, grant money and whatnot. We have other grants that we, apply for throughout the year. So like the SAFER Fund, that we can apply for certain monies through the federal and state governments to help provide, the things that we need. Of course, donors are a large part of this as well. And so there's just between the thrift stores and donors and the grant money and, the federal money that we get from VOCA, it kind of is many pieces of income for us, to support our survivors locally.
Yeah, and like you say, those grants are a blessing, but they're not as reliable. You don't know from one year to the next how it's going to go and what kinds of winds of change can blow.
And it's not just, it's a process, it's an application process.
Yeah,
it's a lengthy thing. And then and then it's not just, well, here's your money.
Yeah.
Like there's reporting that needs to be done.
Right.
And things like every month they have to report different things. And so it's to continue to get those funds. And so it takes really a whole team to just be able to do that.
Well, and then your private donation that you kind of go after, a lot of times, doesn't that kind of play into grants? They want to make sure that you're also out here doing some of the heavy lifting with local people. So their contributions are a feather in the cap, say.
That's right, because a lot of donors, grantees, things like that, they want to know that their money isn't the only money you're getting.
Bingo.
That's the big thing with being in my experience in development. It's always like, well, we'll give you this 10,000, but can you get 10 from someone else too?
Right.
To kind of make it a matching thing, and
that's fair.
No
problem.
Absolutely.
You're not,
you've got a lot going on, and it's not everyone realizes what a great program you have, and a lot of the nonprofits in the area, and so it's actually very competitive too, because when I deal with corporate giving and I'm talking with local businesses and organizations, whether it's a really large one or a mom and pop shop, they want to know that their money is going in the right place.
You bet.
And they're going to be asked a lot. It's not just me walking in their front door.
Right.
So
you listed kind of specifically, and there is a parallel. We do any number of food drives, especially during the holiday season. And I know that there are some things that are kind of welcome at food drives, and some things that are maybe a little tiny bit less so, simply because of the nature of what they are, perishable food items and things like that. Is it similar with what you've got? And what I'm getting at really is a lot of people are going out and getting gift cards for grandkids and to give away to employees and things like that. It seems like gift cards could be very valuable for
absolutely, and we are doing a holiday gift card drive currently, and people can reach out to me directly if they'd like to do that, and I'll give you my phone number for the agency, which is 928-821-9409. You can shoot me a text or give me a call and donate a card. And really, we just ask for $25 cards. It can be anything from, and it needs to be Cottonwood local if you can.
Sure.
So an Amazon card is fine. Sure. Of course, they can order something online, but like a Walmart card, anything from like Fry's or Safeway, anything that can provide something for them to get would be a great way to donate. And those are for our clients for Christmas time, because Christmas isn't, we all get to go home with our families, and we're still going to have clients in shelter on Christmas morning. And likely have kids.
I know holidays can be very stressful, and sometimes that comes out in horrible ways. Is there a business bump? And I'm sorry to use that word, but I think you know what I mean. Do you get busier based on holidays or start of school year?
I haven't been there long enough to really see that. I mean, my temporary office was actually at shelter the last 2 months, and I just moved to our main campus on 221 South Main. But
it doesn't matter. I was just curious.
I think a lot of times, like to your point, like weekends, Friday, Saturday nights typically be and there's always an uptick in domestic violence calls if you talk to law enforcement, on the holidays.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. Absolutely. I mean, we have staff there. Doesn't matter if it's going to be Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, July 4th. Doesn't really matter. Everybody's there all the time, all night. I mean, so they have shift workers and things like that. So it's really just, it does happen. And obviously it's unfortunate.
Right. And that's why you're there 24/7.
Right.
What about, we're talking about financial pledges and donations. What about resources for volunteerism? Does the work that you do is going to be very confidential for a lot of people? I don't know if just a volunteer-based works. How does that?
So typically our volunteers are in our thrift stores. So
Makes sense.
Sedona and Camp Verde thrift stores, the Twice Nice thriftiques that we own and operate. Typically we have a manager, an assistant manager, and another staffer on site, and they worked out their schedule, but the rest are volunteers. And so these volunteers can do anything from run a cash register to help set up the store, to intake product, to like steam clean clothes and wash them because you get a bunch of stuff, and so it's really just, we couldn't do it without the volunteers, because I think we have 35 volunteers or more between the two stores, and it's just a volunteer that maybe they can just come in on a Monday morning, and that's their day. And that's when they come in from 8 to noon or whatever it is. And that's the time they give us. And that's great. It's fantastic. And we have volunteers. We have several volunteers that have been with us for years. Like, it's not just a quick, I'll work the summer and be done. We have people that they've been here for a while. And so
I would imagine they're dedicated to the cause.
They absolutely are. It's a lot of them have done a great job. And so they help support us. That's how they help support us with the thrift store stuff and the needs of a retail store in reality. So,
terrific. Good for them. Verde Valley Sanctuary. We're talking with Brian Bergner. We'll take a short break, and we're back to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology, factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back to the program, our final segment with our guest Brian Bergner and the Verde Valley Sanctuary, one of the many worthwhile charities, nonprofit organizations, valuable in our community for a long, long time now. And you can be a part of it. So with your pledge, your contribution this holiday season especially, it is run largely by donations from folks like you, and they are grateful for every piece of every bit of the community, every segment of our population that can contribute in one way or another. Brian, what do you want to leave us with in our final couple of minutes?
Well, obviously today, again, being Giving Tuesday, we're celebrating our 31 years in existence because we opened in 1994 with, we're tracking 31 gifts for Giving Tuesday as kind of like a goal for that.
Great.
But obviously the most important thing and why we're all here is our clients and the safety and health of our clients. And so if you are in crisis, if you are listening to this program and you're in crisis right now and you need help, I want to give you the crisis hotline. I'm going to give it to you twice so you can write it down. And again, it's 928-634-2511. Again, the crisis hotline for Verde Valley Sanctuary is 928-634-2511. So if you need help, please give us a call.
If I call that number, what happens?
An advocate on the other end will answer the phone. They'll talk to you about your situation. They'll find out what exactly the need is immediately. If they need to come, we can't go pick someone up. They need to come to us. But a lot of times, if like a law enforcement officer gives us a call, they can transport them to us.
Okay.
And so if they don't feel safe in their home and they want to be transported, and there is a police matter that's happening at that time, they can be transported to us.
Okay.
And so the crisis hotline, the officer will actually call us. And so if you need to call us specifically, you can do that, and we'll let you know the address, because again, the shelter is undisclosed. And then you'll speak with an advocate, and then you'll speak with a caseworker. You'll get an intake. And they'll just kind of explain how things work.
You've got it down to a science
at the shelter, and then it's a whole process. They all work a program. Obviously, once they get into shelter and they are safe, little things.